What's up, David?
What's up, my man? How are you? Thanks
Good.
for
How are
doing
you doing?
thanks for doing this, by the way. I'm grateful.
Oh, 100%, dude. I'm excited for this. This is gonna
Yeah,
be fun.
man. Me too. Me too. How's everything? Things okay?
Oh yeah, things are great.
Good.
Growing
Good.
fast, having fun. It's
What's
not
the
freezing outside.
you know what? And it's supposed to drop I guess here in Cleveland on Sunday, but yeah, right now I walked the dog last night and I didn't have to get all bundled up and and it was I mean it's dreary and gray as hell, but I mean it beats the snow and the bitter cold, you know what I mean?
Ours drops on Sunday too.
Yeah, we're gonna be dealing with the same crap, so whatever. Whatever. Let's get it on. Oh, and I talked with Haley the other day. I've got what I need to get this thing set up, so I'll get that squared away. She asked me to re-up for this year, whatever that meant, of course. I think she needs to send me some paperwork. This is just you and I talking, nothing for you to do, just
Yep.
saying out loud. But yeah, I'm pumped to it. It continues to get tighter and tighter as we go down the this path. So, and
It
you'll hear
does.
more about it today. So I'm ready when
Yeah,
you are.
she actually reached out to me after and said that you're pumped about the partnership. She's excited about it. It was a great meeting. So
Yeah, man. Yep. Let's fire away. Ready when you are.
perfect. So I've got my assistant recording. I'm gonna do Zoom recording as well, just as a backup.
Yeah.
Because that's a terrible feeling when it just doesn't work. And I'm going to do it to my computer. So,
Dude, welcome to my world. Let me see if I'm even, well, if I, either way, I want to make sure I can get a copy of it too. So,
yeah, and you are welcome to record as well.
well,
That
dude, like we talked last time when we did this, I had like four different things recording. I don't even know if I have anything recording right now. So, whatever.
Does it let you hit record on the bottom of it?
Hang on
If you
here.
hit more and then there's record, and
Oh,
then
no
it
kidding.
should ask me for permission, then I'll say yes.
Dude, dude, I am definitely with the right person. I love this. All right, good. All right, so request to record to this computer. Okay, send request. There you go.
There we go.
All right, man.
Approve.
Yep.
All right. Mine do the same. We're guaranteed to have a recording that works now.
Yes.
And then the idea is, right, we'll go through these questions, we'll have fun conversation so that we can pull out clips from it and do anything we want as far as marketing on your side, marketing on our side, right?
Yeah, and make sure that, and you don't have to follow anything, and make sure that we get plenty of time for sales AI piece of this as well. And if you need me to name drop or do anything in particular, we're in this together, brother.
Yeah. I think a lot of it's going to happen naturally. So
Yeah, I
we'll just
agree.
have fun with it. So
Hi,
let's
man.
start from the top, David. Obviously, you and I have talked a lot about our background, right? My beginning of my roots in sales was in packaging and manufacturing. And so we shared that. The difference is you stuck with it for a really long time, right?
Yeah,
You've been in that industry for what, over 25 years now?
yeah, yeah.
What's making what's leading to this pivot? Why this change right now?
Well, it's interesting. I've always been fascinated with the specialized side of packaging. I mean, we all cut our teeth in the early days of selling commodity packaging, that, the bubble wrap and the banding and that kind of nonsense. But the real money back when I got into this was dealing with specialized problem-solving packaging. Again, several years ago, 25, 30 years ago, pre-internet. And you really kind of ate what you killed, so to speak. And, so it was really important to be able to get into more difficult packaging, more difficult problems, and solve them. And that's where the big money was. And, fast forward now, we've had this iteration of, technology with the internet, now the technology with AI. And the one thing that was consistent for me over the years was, regardless of whether I was selling to a customer or whether I was walking through a factory, I always was asking, do you do anything different than somebody else? Do you do something unique? What and who's it for and why? And people used to look at me as like, it was sort of like, because that's where the money's at, those niches, or the riches are in the niches or whatever.
Yes.
And I stuck with it because I kept kind of finding more of those opportunities, to originally sell for myself and our company. But now it's kind of come full circle where I see this opportunity to build something that's not just for me, it's building something for the industry, where the industry has this kind of a kind of like this empty void, if you will, out there in capturing the uniqueness of what a company does. Not and again, you've heard me riff on this for years, where historically packaging has not been very descriptive in what it is that they do. We sell
Yeah.
packaging, we sell custom packaging. Well, now with AI, that's like vanilla, that's nothing. And if you don't describe and get into specifics, then you're just lost. So I see this kind of, area that used to frankly frustrate me as this massive opportunity for companies at a time in particular where the economy is down and companies are struggling for sales and companies are everybody's racing to the bottom on cost. And I'm like, no, that there's got to be a better way. So it's really kind of come full circle where I'm always fascinated in the packaging products themselves, but now I'm actually even more fascinated in gathering that wisdom and sharing that wisdom for the industry as a whole. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. Well, and wisdom and technology, right? That's what I love about what you're building.
Yeah.
I look back at, myself 17 years ago when I was working in packaging, and I was with an incredible company, great leadership. I'm still very
Yeah.
close to them. But I was torn with like, am I out knocking doors? Am I making cold calls? Because that was the regular way of going, right? Am I going to Chamber of Commerce events? Am I doing lead gen? Like there was so many LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
And so what I ended up doing, and I was barely above entry level, right? But I ended up going and finding somebody that could make calls for me in the Philippines, and I just paid her out of pocket,
Yeah.
and it did good things for me, right? I had that growth. But if I had someone like you that I could have gone through and been like, hey, what is the best tech stack to use for this? What is something I can do to be able to help with more aggressive,
Yeah.
responsible growth? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't even know what that would have looked like, but it would have looked very different 17 years ago than what my career looked like at the time.
It's interesting. You mentioned something, and I picked this up from you in one of our conversations. It's about efficiency. It's really about efficiency. Now, you did that, with the Philippines, but really, in essence, it's about helping the sales rep and ultimately the company, but
Hmm.
but be more efficient. I'm learning as I go into this how costly it is to be selling the wrong product to the wrong person at the wrong time with the wrong company for the wrong motives. And that's just and having an 85 grand a year sales rep attempt to do this is just an absolute money pit.
Yeah.
And so many people that just think, well, that's the way it's done. No, that's where I'm so passionate about this. And it's the efficiencies that you can grab now that I think are just completely untapped.
I agree. It's so fun to watch how this is changing. I mean, every industry, but this is such a fun one to watch because this industry typically comes a little after everybody else, and it's cool to see you starting to change that. Now, one of the things, and I don't know if I saw this on a LinkedIn post or if this was your website, but somewhere you said that you see reps all the time drowning in quotes, but
Yeah.
what was it? Starving for sales? Explain that more. What does that mean?
Yeah, I see this, and it kind of goes back a little bit further. When I got into this space, there was a lot of these independent reps, or you work for a company, but it was really heavy commission based, and you may have gotten a draw, whatever. But I've seen this over the years
I
where
was
a
I
lot.
was full commission by the time my sales caught up to my salary, it was replaced, and I
Yeah.
was full commission.
Yeah, and that's the way it always was. But I've seen this, especially in the packaging space, whether it's for packaging distributors, whether it is for manufacturers, where we've kind of, and I don't know what caused this, but I saw a lot of companies going, you know what, it's harder to get hunters like you and me that are willing to do this. So let's just get somebody on a salary. And
Yeah.
let's try to make it a little, and we'll have a better pool to pull from. Well, that may make sense, but you also eliminate the hunting aspect of it. So, and the sad thing is I've also seen that very few companies in the packaging space over the years have trained their reps to be hunters. And so what I've seen is this dumbing down of, and it's not a knock. It's kind of like what we've accepted as an industry and said, yeah, you know what, chase this or don't chase it. What I'm getting at is when the shit hits the fan, so to speak, and problems happen, or there's opportunities, or there's tariffs, or there's something unexpected, or COVID happens, what do your reps do then? And it's really telling to me now where I see everybody, a lot of people in my world are, I'm going to quote, can I quote you something? Can I quote you something? As if that's a sale. And that's not. And I see a lot of these reps, companies, very big companies that are saying, yeah, we're quoting like crazy, but nothing. And then they make this kind of a, almost they say to themselves, well, we're trying hard and we're quoting, but it's not leading to sales. That to me is not the industry's problem, and that's not tariffs problems. That's a fundamental core problem with you've got to get beyond the quoting. And sadly, in the US, for years, we've been addicted to cheap and we cheapest price. What's the price? And we miss out on the value. We miss out on the problems that we're solving. We miss out on even structuring a sale. And I've often said to our reps over the years, and it would drive me crazy, but one of the first questions we always try to train our people to ask is, what's the problem? And by the way, what is the problem costing you? And you can do this at the very beginning, because if you find a problem that's costing a company $1 and you come up with a solution that costs 10 cents, don't sell it for 11 cents. And I'm not saying gouge anybody, that has nothing to do with it, but that's selling 101. And that goes back to the quoting and no wonder why we're so kind of underwater as the industry. It's drowning in quotes because people or sales managers and the salespeople themselves think that's okay when the shit hits the fan. And it's not okay, which is kind of the impetus of why I started this platform, tried to kind of gather wisdom from different people and companies to be able to kind of start spreading that.
Now, I would almost think, I'm going to push a little bit and see how you respond to this. I almost feel like the ones that are drowning in quotes are the lucky ones. And the reason I say that is because so many people, I've been in sales enablement, sales technology for nearly a decade now, and it seems like so many salespeople, not just this industry, in most industries, they're making a ton of calls. They're
Yeah.
sending a bunch of mail. They're going to events. They're going to networking, right? They're doing all these things. They're so busy working, but it seems like most of them aren't even having real conversations, and a lot of those aren't even leading to quotes. Is that something? Are you seeing something different, or what does that look like on your end?
No, I mean that's exactly it. I mean the quote part of it is kind of like their check the box. But what you described is exactly what's happening, where companies are desperate for something, so they're throwing money at these things, at the trade shows, and hey, we're going to get this great killer CRM, and we're going to, oh, what? We need a new website. That's what we need. We're going to put in a new website that's going to be shiny and tell everyone. No, the fundamental pieces to this industry, whether it's packaging or manufacturing, B2B in my world, I'm sure it's others,
Yeah.
but we see a lot of this sort of a messed up system. And there's really no, and I also really hold accountable a lot of sales managers in this space. There's a lot in my world of the good old boy network. Hey, steak dinner and golf. That's all I
Oh
need. I
yeah.
know this guy and that's all. But you know what? That may have worked 20 years ago, and but it doesn't scale. And so, to your point, there I still see a lot of this inefficiency of tons and tons of activity, because people assume or equate activity as being productive. But you and I both know that that's not it. You can be, I mean, you could work and push on the pull door all you want. It's not going to open. So I agree with you 100%. I think the check the box has been, well, I quoted him, so I'm waiting for the phone to ring. I'm like,
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Fair. Now, how much risk do you think there actually is in manufacturing right now if they're not willing to adapt? And the reason I bring this up is obviously I work around a lot of tech companies,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Tech companies tend to know other tech companies. And manufacturing tends to not be the top of most people's ICP only
Yep.
because it does tend to move a little slower, right? I'm sure
Yep.
manufacturing will be a top ICP in 5 years.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so in my mind, it is not the industry that's going to be adopting quickly, but I think there's some risk associated with that. Like, what does that look like from your side?
Well, I think that's where the one of the missing pieces is confronting that, because it when somebody has time, whether it's something like this or a post that you guys put out or something that the risk is one of those like, oh, that's not what I thought it was. All too often in this old line industry, I'll speak of packaging, is they hear words like tech or they hear words like AI and they gloss over and they think, oh, it's complicated, really expensive.
Hmm.
They just tune out. And where it's not that at all. And where you're talking about in the tech industry, where they're very familiar with techie terms and words, I'm finding one of the biggest things is I have to use different words than tech. Precision targeting, efficiency, I mean, anything that gets away from the AI tech speak. And the more I'm able to do that, and by the way, get to the right person that actually feels that pain. And let me kind of run with that for a second, because I'm finding this distinction like daily. I'm finding these insights where if you're talking, I don't care whether we're talking tech or not, or AI or technology or efficiency, but if the wrong person or the wrong title of the company hears that, if that business development person or sales manager hears that or whatever, they think, I got another thing I got to do. I got
Hmm.
more work and I got something else to answer. And that's a log jam. And they'll agree and say, oh yeah, we got to have that. We got to have that. But they're like, no way, I'm not doing it. But if you get to the guy that or gal who really and truly understands that pain, when you speak in those terms of efficiency and mastering the follow-up, something I got from you guys, meaning there's efficiencies not just in making calls, but the efficiency is the follow-up. The efficiency is being able to stay in touch with customers that maybe weren't ready today but may be ready, and you can educate them and do it in a way that's not spammy
Yeah.
or not and that's where there's this disconnect. And I just hear it's you got to get to the person that can receive that message, not hear it as in I got to do more work and it's just another ball and chain. They want to hear this as in, wait a minute, we could cover more ground, we can close bigger deals, have less competition, talk to the right people. And by the way, even if we don't talk to the right people, get led to eventually talking to the right people, what's not to like?
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of where we're at in this B2B manufacturing world, where a lot of these companies are just sort of like they just look at this as like just another thing I got to do. So,
Yeah. I think that's the perfect introduction to something that stood out in we obviously email back and forth quite a bit.
yeah.
You had dropped a teaser in there, and if I say this wrong, just correct me. I think it was
All right.
called the AI sales machine. Tell me what that is.
Well, so what it's kind of morphed into, and again, this is happening, again, part of what we just talked about, even using the term AI, is more of it's kind of been morphed into competitive edge packaging machine. Using words like machine, competitive edge takes us away
Mhm.
from AI and techie, and in terms that people can understand. So what it is that I have found, and I really kind of got this through COVID, where for years I was an early adopter to WebEx and these online meetings, but I did it from instead of me, I was heavy automotive way back in the day, and instead of driving to Saginaw, Michigan, I was like, hey, I can talk to the guy at Lear or Ford on the computer and we can discuss this project and then I can dial it in and then go travel. Well, that sounded great and I'm such a huge fan of doing that, but the other side of the coin, the old fuddy-duddy at Lear or Ford was like, what's email? Huh? What's cell phone? What do I do with this? But anyhow, COVID really brought us all together where we Zoom and Teams, which I can't stand, but Zoom was all of a sudden this became, and then the other thing that really kind of came out of this too was the fact that Fathom or any of these other recording software that you could put onto this wasn't from a big brother watching, so to speak. It was capturing the essence of what somebody is saying. So what I'm getting at here is I found when I would finally talk to somebody that was a decision maker at a company or the plant owner or whatever it was, first things first is to have a conversation as part of this competitive edge program, but just to have a deep one-on-one conversation, just talking about those key things that every company in this space. I mean, first and foremost, it's that how was sales? How were things? Tell me, are you facing what we're seeing? And for the most part, everybody has some sort of a sales pain, sales pressure right now as we end 2025 and 2026 going forward. But it was being able to have a conversation one-on-one with somebody, preferably on camera, but to capture it from you can hear and see these clues when you talk to somebody about their sales pain, or maybe they get passionate about a certain type of packaging they just sort of uncovered or discovered. And I have often found that fascinating. So when I'm talking to somebody and we get past the bullshit fluff, oh, everything's great, oh, we're printing money, everything's fine, whatever, we kind of distill it down into, yeah, we could really use some help here, or we just kind of came up with something in the packaging realm, but we don't quite know how to get it to market or find the right people or find the right opportunities. So what I was getting at was I knew that if I could talk with somebody on a one-on-one level, capture what they said and kind of use the words that they used, the phrases that they used, and to be able to grab that and use it for it's basically captured wisdom. But when I'm able to kind of regurgitate it back, and what happened from this was I found that these clues sounds like it's a treasure map, but it isn't. It's trying to help these companies, packaging related, sell more products. And all too often in my space, David, these companies were so used to, never really grasping those one or two key niches that they do better than anybody else. Nobody ever asked them. And I don't care whether it's a brown box company to the most sophisticated aseptic packaging, having a conversation with one of the key people of that company and being able to ask the right questions about, yeah, but did you ever work with a company that, that you saved their bacon? Meaning they came to you with the biggest problem and you guys worked on this and worked on this. And invariably they come back with, yeah, we did that for Kraft Foods and they had a problem with this. Well, tell me more about that. Would you want more Kraft food opportunities? Oh, of course, but nobody knows we do this. Okay, let's back up. So that was really insight number one, was if I was able to have a one-on-one conversation and record it and save it, not as a secret, but to be able to kind of penetrate. Then what I also discovered is that's one part of the equation. The other part is with this advent of AI, a lot of packaging, no, 99.9% of packaging companies have vanilla or generic websites.
Yeah.
When they finally accepted websites back in, God knows, 5 or 10 years after everybody else did, they assumed, and I know it's a general statement, but I know I'm right. They assumed that having generic websites that just a catch-all website is more advantageous to get leads. we don't want to say that we're really good at, high temperature film because we're going to alienate the people that might not need that. So we're just going to say we do film. Well, that may have worked back in the heyday of Google and AdWords, and you could pay for your placement. But AI, in the second step of this, AI search is different. It wants specifics. It wants details. It wants to know problems that you solve. It wants to know industries that you're good at. And all of that is completely missing in the packaging space. For every company that actually has figured this out, I mean, and when they do, like I've been saying to anybody who will listen, you've got like a 6 month, maybe more head start on the rest of the industry because they're still waiting for the phone to ring. And they're just like we talked before, we're quoting like crazy. So the first things first is we find the niche and the opportunity. Then we use our technology to say, okay, we've discovered that David and Son packaging is really good at this high temperature film, and we've discovered let's do some research with the tools that are out there, whether it's Clay or Apollo or anything else out there, and find more opportunities that he's kind of mentioned to us that would be great fits. And then the third part of this is the sales AI piece, and that's not a shameless plug. It's important because it doesn't do you any good to have information and great detail about a problem and then create a very attractive AI fueled kind of website sticky content without being able to bring in the AI piece of this for efficiency. So basically what I did to answer your question is I put those pieces together, including the sales AI bolt on the back end, and then we can sell that as a system where we can go to a company and it's not, and it's really important because a lot of people hear this as so are you going to is this replace our salespeople? No. Is this something that, forget that wherever that's coming from, it's a system to make your folks more efficient and more effective. And to be able to do that in an industry that is so behind the times in my world and so desperate for something that is highly effective, very efficient, and as much as I hate to even say it, low cost, because it's not from it, because that even you throw cost in there as if like you're selling a used car. No, the point is that this is what the industry's been missing for 20 years is the ability to use technology and do this in a way to find the right people for the right projects at the right time and get them the right solutions. And when you can tie that all together without having to have an $85,000 a year sales rep making cold calls, and then God forbid he's got to remember to call the guy back in 2 weeks because he was like, yeah, I want to talk to you. That's where this thing is like, it's a missing machine that I believe it first will start with packaging, but I think other B2B and manufacturing companies need this as well.
So while you were talking, so many good things, and I ended up having a ton of questions. So I wrote them down.
Yeah,
So I'm going to rapid fire through some of these. You mentioned this is not necessarily to go replace reps, right?
correct.
I was trying to think like if it was me in the beginning of my career, right? This is 20-year-old David.
Yeah.
He is 6 months into working in packaging, super excited about the opportunity, but nervous about everything, right? And I see my sales management pulling in technology like this.
Yeah.
There's a chance I'm going to be nervous, right? So if you were talking to 20-year-old me, how would you explain like what is this going to change about my job?
Well, I'll tell you, and again, something I got from you one of the first times we talked is this is not about replacing sales reps. It's about making them monsters. You used the word monster and in a good way, meaning if the sales manager was smart and you were experienced and would pull you in to say, look, this isn't about, getting rid of you in your entry level position. This is about making you a six-figure, plus rep for us. I want you here for the next 20 years. I want you to literally, and this is why I'm investing in this. And then that obviously gets the buy-in. But But again, I totally get where people are nervous because they see this shit on TV or the news, or they watch this, and it's not. This is efficiency. This is efficiency. Yes. Can you use technology in industries to eliminate? Yeah, but that's not what we're working on here. That's not what we're doing here. Now, if you can use the technology down the road to see if, and we've all faced this, where you have a rep that's kind of just like mailing it in. Well, that's the other beauty of this is, hey, dude, sorry, and that's the fact of reality in our world, not just yours and mine. It's the world. So it's not meant to, but I think that's a very good lead in, and I think companies would be doing themselves a huge favor to just confront this from the first place, not to replace you, but to make you a monster, to help you grow your sales. And who wouldn't want that?
I love it. So can you give a couple details? Again, 20-year-old me, right?
Mhm.
What does this change about my job? What in my day-to-day is this going to affect?
Well, let's start at the beginning, as in, let's say hypothetically you're selling for a packaging company. And again, the one thing that really I always preface is we want to focus on one or two niches. This is not some sort of a catch-all. This isn't lead gen. This isn't Zoom info. No, this is about, okay, if we've met that criteria and you're working for a company that said, hey, your job is to go out there and build this fulfillment center business for us. I want you to be able to kind of go out there and create a market for this. So to answer your question, the beauty of technology is the fact that we can equip you with the tools you need to make your life much more efficient. It wasn't that long ago that, I mean, we see it all the time. If you had a fulfillment center, and I'm talking about assembly and putting stuff together, you pick up the phone, go to Thomas Net, um, send a bunch of emails and hope somebody responds. That's like a needle in the haystack. But when you're able to kind of say, we're able to do some pre-research in advance and find companies and it's really easy these days to find companies that you've already sold this fulfillment service to. Why are they buying from you? And what problem did you solve? And who are you dealing with? So back to your question, when you're able to equip the salesperson, the 20-year-old you, with that knowledge and insight ahead of time, and knowing that you're not going to spend time dealing with Betty the clerk gatekeeper, you have found a way to get around to a real decision maker who's very interested in what you do. That to me is where you get you get the buy-in, but you get you going like, it's a much easier way for you to buy in and go, I get it. Instead of, you gotta do this, and then here's 40 other things you gotta do, and oh wait, you gotta call that guy back. This is where you're working, and the salespeople, the 20-year-old you, are working on closing deals. That's what you were hired for. Not and of course, there's always a sales engineer piece where that's not the point. But if we're able to take the 20-year-old you and make you more effective in closing deals, and let a system kind of, help you get 80% of the way there for your next call, and the next call, oh, and by the way, they followed up on your first call, and that guy just came back and he just downloaded a case study that you posted, and he just filled out a, request for information. This is what's missing in this industry, and it's so disjointed. So I hope I answered your question. I went off on a tangent, but I mean, just to be able to explain it to a 20-year-old you or me, that this is about getting to the right people for the right projects at the right time so you can make the right money and solve these problems. And that's what's missing right now.
That's perfect. 20-year-old me would be very excited. I mean,
Yeah, man.
me today is excited about this. So that's awesome.
100%, 100%, brother.
And this is something Sales AI, I'm just transparently, right? We've
Oh
talked
yeah,
about this.
yeah,
We have not killed it in that industry, right? It's not been one that we've exclusively targeted. It's tended to be a little bit slower decision-making process. And so that's part of the reason I'm so excited about this partnership is
yeah.
that this is a new area for us, right? Not brand new necessarily, but
No,
it is not somewhere that we've spent a lot of time, and it's somewhere you've spent a ton of time.
yeah.
But I gotta ask, why did you decide to use Sales AI as part of this package? What made you excited to work with us?
Well, a couple things. Number one, I had experience in the past, and one of the things I will share with anybody is I'm just like the very people I've gone after. I hear techie and I see dollar signs. I think, oh my God, I'm gonna have to call my son in college and he's gonna have to talk me off the ledge. And none of that. The one thing that Sales AI has, and there's all kinds of other, and look, everybody is inundated all day with, the Lindy's and some other things that are out there, and you can do this and tell them what to do. Great, knock yourself out. I don't have time to screw around. I want to work with somebody that can help me where tell me how to get from A to B on the AI side of things. Let me explain. And the one thing that I have found that Sales AI has been so generous with is understanding that my ultimate goal has always been to grow sales and get to the right people. But oftentimes it's kind of disjointed. I mean, it's like, I don't know, is there a list somewhere and who do we talk to or whatever? What Sales AI has done has kind of simplified in my world the entire process. I'm 61 years old. My point is that I don't have time to reinvent the wheel. I want to get this shit done and I want to see if it works. And for a company that doesn't want to spend, you can always cut corners or try to find it's been the most effective, efficient way for me to verify a business model and then tweak it as it goes. So one of the things that you and I just kind of we're touching on is you guys have struggled very much like I have in the past of getting this in front of the right people. Part of this we've shared this journey together is getting the right words to the right people, finding that right person. But the missing link had always been that natural handoff to somebody that can handle the tech. I'm not that guy. I don't want that call. I don't want to deal with it. And that's where Sales AI has really kind of knocked it out for me and my team because it's a partnership. The this kind of stuff can be very wiggy for some of us that have been in the industry for a long time and we think, oh my God, am I going to be protected? What if they go around me? None of that stuff. This is very much a partnership where you guys have understood what I'm trying to do, who I'm trying to go after, and then show me. Haley's been incredible, but show me that's my client rep. But what I'm getting at is, what do you want to do? How do you want to do this? And here's how we're going to do it. Thank you. I got the phone ringing. I got other things I got to do. So to answer your question, and I don't want to sound, I'm not bullshitting. It's a simplified process for people that have other stuff they need to do, meaning it's part of the puzzle, but it isn't the entire puzzle. And that's where I think together we both discovered, like, wait a minute, maybe there's an introductory piece that leads into the handoff to a sales AI. And I think that's when you and I both our eyes lit up and we're like, that's right. Because you got to prove that, you can't just come in and tell somebody an AI side of things without them, wigging out. But if you show them a step and you show them the wisdom and the efficiency and then the handoff, what's not to like? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that is the if I look at the amount of just time waste and time drain that teams have right now,
Right.
and it's not obviously for any lack of effort, right? I mean, I've managed sales teams for a long time, and it's always how do we make more calls? How do we make more effective calls? How do we get better conversion rates? But it's just so much wasted time on
Yep.
calling the wrong people, calling them at the wrong time, not
Yep.
calling them enough times, forgetting
Yep.
about them, and now they're sitting in your pipeline for months. And
Yep.
this is a solution to literally every one of those problems. right? So I just think it's awesome what you're doing with this.
Well, and it's thank you. And what's really cool is, and this kind of came out of one of the conversations I had with Haley, and here's the thing that I think a lot of companies, part of the opportunity is always getting to the right decision maker. Once you find the right decision maker, or at least have a 80% idea, and a lot of that stuff you can do ahead of time. But the key thing that a lot of packaging people, I'll speak from packaging, is we've been brought up in this. Well, David didn't answer the phone, so I'm going to keep calling him. And I'm going to call him again tomorrow. I'm going to call him again tomorrow. And then when you finally, maybe I catch you Friday at 4 and you're headed out of the office, and then it's like, and the cool thing that is out there is we're not trying to sell you anything initially. We're trying to make a connection. We're trying to see if in fact, you are interested. And all too often, sales reps tend to just be those bulldogs, and we're just going to keep calling, calling, calling. But what's missing is that and again, for years, I don't know, maybe somehow I stumbled upon it, but if I wanted to sell the Hoover Company, I'm not going to go in there and try to sell them on, initially packaging. I can do this. I want to talk to them about Royal Appliance or Bissell or Eureka. And that's a very disarming way to get somebody to kind of go, hold on one second. You're talking about others in my industry. You're talking about my industry. Maybe this guy is bringing or having something of, has something of value that I should pay attention to. And I think that's so missing out there these days as we prospect, as we try to make connections, is to use the psychology behind this. Whereas, hey, you're the plant manager of, XYZ food company. And, here may be a case study we did for John Hermel. And if you're interested, and it's, just something where they converted to an eco-friendlier film. And I see that you're a sustainability manager and you might find this interesting.
Yeah.
Nothing else that says, I'm going to call you tomorrow and talk about it, schedule a call with me. Very much give, give, give. And human nature is like, well, who is this guy? Wait a minute. I'm getting a lot of good intel and information here, and I'm not. And yes, there's always a way to contact me. And eventually, after time, there'll be hey, if I see you've downloaded a couple case studies, you watch 4 minutes of a couple different videos. Love to talk with you if you'd like to have a conversation. And that's what's missing out there all too often is we're in such a hurry. We're not doing the dance. And I've said this to our team over the years too, is you got to do a dance. This is not, you got to court the girl before you marry her. And you got to make sure that that you're a fit, and and all too often we're in such and that goes back to that quote mentality. I got to do something. And where's the nuance to this? And that's the beauty of having an AI and the ability to kind of build that in. And to your point, where you've got a rep that has to try to physically remember about calling this guy next week. What if that was done for you, or set the table for you? That's what the efficiency does in this particular space that I think is just untapped.
All right, as we are getting close to running out of time, I want to
Yeah,
ask you
yeah.
just a fun question. Is
Bring it.
two people that are really excited about technology, what's your favorite tech they're using right now? Outside of Sales AI, right? Obviously, we're on the list, but outside of Sales AI, what's your favorite tech right now?
Well, my favorite tech is NotebookLM. And I don't know if I mean, I know all this stuff, but here's the reason why. I'm a storyteller. And what I love more than ever is, and I get this stuff and I discover this. What is really fascinating is, if I want to learn about a certain type of product, packaging, whatever, industry, the ability to kind of use, that kind of a tech where I'm able to capture YouTube videos and case studies and website addresses and pull this all in. That knowledge base, and I'll explain this to you in a second where this came from, but to be able to then distill that information and ask questions. So hear me out. One of the things that I've struggled with over the years for the longest time is, and we've all had advisory boards, and we've all had, mentors, hopefully, or people that'll help us. Great. But here's the thing. A lot of wisdom from the old days. When I talk wisdom, I'm talking Henry Ford and Walt Disney and the guys that really, really, really invented industries. And not that I'm in that world, but could you imagine if you and I were able to go out and have a conversation with Henry Ford about the 5 times he went bankrupt and what got him to keep going, or the Walt Disney who was told he was absolutely out of his flippin' mind to create an amusement park? What I'm getting at is what I did over holiday break is I took every piece of content that I could find about some of these key mentors that I wish I could have a conversation with. I loaded it into NotebookLM, and they'd become my advisory board. Everybody there has come there. Seth Godin, who's still alive from the marketing side of things. There was a couple of old business, John Rockefeller, you know, and I just wanted to be able to ask questions and say, okay, how do I get this message across in a new industry to people who are, again, Henry Ford, with the horse and buggy, so the wisdom that's out there that is untapped, to be able to kind of distill it for me. I know it's not incredibly techy as in the latest, I know there's what CES going on in Vegas this week. But for me to be able to pull that kind of stuff and use it for a mythical advisory board where I can ask questions like, really, when you can go deep into this and it gives you an answer back as if they were John Rockefeller,
Yeah.
as if they were Henry Ford or Walt Disney. I think that's badass, man. And
It's so cool.
all too often, people just assume that, they're dead, they're gone. But that's the one thing, if I could leave anybody with something that I think is really profound, it's wisdom scaling. And it's really, somebody sent me something the other day, and I love it because the beauty of AI is we can pull wisdom from all these different places, past, present, whatever, and the ability to collectively use that wisdom as we approach problems, opportunities, but that wisdom keeps getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And really, in essence, the one thing that a light bulb went off for me is our marketplace, as we scale this out, is about capturing wisdom of companies and obviously putting them in there. But that wisdom can continue to be refined, and ultimately that becomes such an awesome database of continual wisdom that can be refined and used again and again and again. That shit just drives me. I love it, man. I can't get enough of it. So but Notebook LM is my sweet spot. That's where I geek out and I go 3 hours down the road and I'm like, oh my God, I got to go to bed. So anyhow.
That's perfect, David. All right, with us wrapping up, is there anything else you want to share that I've not gone over that you think? Because I'm very hopeful that people are going to hear this, right? Especially in an industry that is just moving a little too slow right now, right? I'm
Yeah.
I'm very hopeful that this gets to them and just makes them think, what if? What if I gave this a try? What if our team had this? Anything else you want to share if this can get
Well,
to?
to that point, try it. I mean, that's the thing that all too often in our world, and we try to tell our kids, you got to try. And we live, unfortunately, or people who are afraid to fail, and oh my God, what happens if it? You gotta look at this as an opportunity, not as something that is to be feared. And those that can do this and look at this, even a guy at 61 can look at this as a way to scale, to grow, to find new customers, whatever it may be. And the missing piece is you got to try. And again, shameless plug, but check out the Sales AI, from the simple fact that for somebody like me, that when you get into that $5 to $15 million a year range, I don't have time to screw around with, missing the plugging the bolts in. And that's where sales AI has been invaluable to me, to be able to kind of take my vision, put it into action, and then turn it on. I just think that's pretty cool. So I hope
And
that
if
helped.
somebody wanted to ask you questions about this or go deeper, what's the easiest way to get a hold of you?
You know what? The David Marinac, at davidmarinac.com, if you want to, that's a catch-all website that I've got. And feel free to just go there and you can grab my phone number. But and I've often made it very clear, and I'll say it again, for anybody on the sales AI thing, I've often said, talk to me, have somebody call me. Because that I tell it to it straight. I mean, you can nickel and dime this all you want and probably save $100 here and there and get your Lindy person or whatever. This isn't credits and pieces, parts or whatever. It's dealing with somebody that I can, okay, let's handle and move on. So,
Perfect. All right.
all
We're
right.
done.
Happy Friday, my brother. I appreciate you a
Sweet.
ton. Thank you for doing this. Let me
This is
know if
awesome,
there's
David.
anything I can do. Yeah, man. Anytime. Anytime.
Perfect. Enjoy your
All right,
weekend,
big
man.
boy. Yeah, you too, brother. I'll talk to you soon. See you,
See
man.
ya.
Bye.